Hello, Aaron Kubitz, personal trainer at Functional Aesthetics EC, helping average guys perform better inside and outside the gym. So in today's video, I'm going to be talking a little bit about the name of my business, Functional Aesthetics, which many people believe has to do something with, blending the traditional strength training exercises with functional activity, or that I focus a lot on functional fitness, which I do. I do tend to believe that the best form of training is a holistic approach, where you are not just focusing on moving heavier weights in the gym, or getting bigger muscles, or getting leaner, or any of those things like that, aesthetic, or just lifting heavier weight, but you're focusing on all the different aspects of your fitness, your mobility, multi-directional strength and stability, as well as your cardiovascular fitness, power, strength, speed, agility, and just the ability to move your body in a real life environment, not just in the gym. Because oftentimes, and this is something that I was actually thinking about earlier today when I was having a little bit of back issues, right? And this was because I was spending a lot of time sitting, working on stuff, and then I did some weightlifting. And so as a result, I didn't actually need that much glycogen stores in my muscles and stuff because I was sitting. But then when I went out to run, I noticed that there wasn't enough support. I had depleted myself too much. And this is something I'm going to get into later on in the video, so that'll make a little bit more sense, talking about glycogen levels, performance, and adapting your diet and your training based upon the environment that you find yourself in. But long story short, this depleted glycogen levels, which I was unaware of because I was not out there running and doing physical activity like I had in the past, and so I was therefore unaware of it, caused me to have some back issues because of that depleted glycogen levels in the muscles, and I got super lean or super depleted in those low back areas and stuff from doing some deadlifts and some hip bridges and stuff like that. So when I went out to run, I was having some issues. So I find that people normally get into fitness for one of two reasons, sometimes both, but usually one of the two. One is an aesthetics reason, so they either want to build more muscles or they want to lose body fat, or a performance reason, such as they are involved in a sport, right? And sometimes that carries over into their adult life, but typically people will be involved in sports in high school and college, and then adult life happens, they get a family and stuff like that, and they stop doing a lot of those activities, and then sometimes they want to get back into it later on, more for the aesthetics reasons, and sometimes because of that performance reason, because they miss feeling strong and physically capable like they did when they were in high school or in college, and they want to get that back. So while there is nothing really wrong with wanting to look better or to want to lift heavier weights and stuff like that in the gym, when it comes down to it, there's a lot more to benefits to fitness than simply just the way you look. And oftentimes the way you look is a manifestation of the environment that you subject your body to most regularly on a regular basis, right? And before I get into this, I want to say that everybody has the time to be able to at least develop a baseline level of fitness, to avoid becoming overweight, to have a basic level of strength, cardiovascular endurance, and you should pursue those things, okay? Now what I'm talking about is more when you see these fitness influencers, right? Or people doing bodybuilding shows, or running marathons, ultra marathons, CrossFit, all these kind of things, right? And thinking that I need to be doing that for my fitness. I'm going to touch more on that later on in the video, but as I said, to preface this at the beginning of this, was that fitness, or how your body looks, is kind of a manifestation of the activities that you're doing on a regular basis, because the body adapts to that, right? So for example, a bushman in the Kalahari in Africa, also your diet too, right? And that's going to kind of play into this as well. So a bushman in the Kalahari in Africa is going to probably have superb aerobic fitness, right? His aerobic conditioning is going to be great. And he's also probably going to be very thin because of the difficulty of deriving resources from his environment. It's a very hot, arid environment. There's not a lot of water available. And getting food, he probably has to expend a lot of energy to try to find some food, and it's probably pretty scarce. He probably doesn't have a lot of large animals to eat in that environment. It's probably going to be smaller ones. And so his body has maybe adapted to this sort of environment that he's in. Now, he's probably not going to have a lot of muscular strength or muscular power because of the environment that he's in. He doesn't need to be sprinting super hard after stuff most of the time, right? Most of the time it's going to be a slow, steady walk, or he's going to be creeping through the brush, sneaking up on an animal or something. He also probably doesn't have to lift an enormous amount of weight at any one given time, and so his body adapts to that. Now you contrast that with your typical desk jockey. He's sitting in his office all day, and then because he wants to become fit or he wants to get more muscular and more strong, and most guys, they want to focus on being bigger and stronger, right? That's what we like to do. And so he goes and he spends a lot of his time doing powerlifting type exercises. So maybe he is really strong in his deadlift and his bench press, right? But then he doesn't have a lot of time, so he's neglecting his aerobic fitness, right? And so it suffers in those areas. And so he develops a body that looks a little bit more like the environment that he's in, right? So maybe he's carrying a little extra body fat and he's moving big heavy weights, so he kind of looks like this big bulky guy, right? As opposed to this very lean skinny guy out in the Kalahari in Africa. Okay, so how does this all relate to my idea of functional aesthetics? Well, when I was working a manual labor job, and I was routinely walking about 13 miles a day, as well as lifting and pushing and dragging moderately heavy objects for the whole day, and then, on the weekends, I would do some cardiovascular exercise. And because I still wanted to pursue my bodybuilding goals, I was still doing some lifting. So I was lifting about 4 hours of bodybuilding training per week. And so my diet was a reflection of the environment that I was in, right? I needed to have the energy to go long periods of time, but also I didn't have the opportunity to feed myself frequently. So I had a diet that was almost, a little bit higher in fat to fuel those long periods of walking and doing the moderately intense exercises. And then I would rotate those carbohydrates so that I wasn't entirely dependent on carbohydrates, but I did have some of those, and so then it would preserve my glycogen stores, right? When you're primarily burning fat for fuel most of the time, you're not tapping into your carbohydrate stores as much, and so that when I would go to the gym, even after a long day of doing a lot of walking and stuff like that, without even necessarily eating enough food per se, because I didn't have the time to do that on the job, and I didn't want to also disrupt my digestive process while I was doing all this labor. When I got to the gym, I still had more energy in the tank because of this higher fat diet, carbohydrate cycling sort of protocol, right? Now, when I transitioned later on to having a lot more time spent sitting behind a computer when I was building my business and, figuring out all the different systems for the business and all the different various things that you need to do on a computer. And so I wasn't doing that quite as much labor anymore, and apart from my workouts, right? And so again, I needed to transition my diet. Now, a lot of people complain that they don't have enough energy throughout the day, right? And again, this goes back to that your body adapts to the environment that you're in. Energy is created, right? So if you don't move most of the time, you're gonna not wanna move most of the time, right? If you are moving a lot, unless you have actually just, done a very long periods of work or whatever and stuff like that, then you're probably going to want to move more. In fact, I oftentimes felt more energized at the end of a long day of manual labor, like I just described, than I would at the end of a long day of sitting in classrooms or sitting on a computer studying things, right? And so if you want to have more energy, you got to move more, right? And this is why I also say, like, early in the day, as early as possible, you want to do some form of movement, right? It doesn't need to be a whole workout, but because maybe you don't have enough time. Maybe you have to get up early in the day or something like that and head right to the office, right? Maybe you don't have time to do an entire workout. Maybe you're not a morning person, but even with that, spend 10 minutes or something just doing some light calisthenics, do some breathing exercises, do some yoga, go for a little walk, a little jog, something like that to release those fatty acids into the bloodstream, increase your oxygen levels, and that will stimulate you and set the stage for the rest of the day. If you have the opportunity throughout the day to move frequently, then do so. And you will notice over time that your energy levels increase. But the reason I say all this and I preface this is that when I transitioned from doing this more active and physically demanding sort of lifestyle to a more slightly more sedentary lifestyle, then I needed to adjust my diet because I didn't want to just become deconditioned, right? Because I said, as you're moving and you're doing stuff, if you're eating whole foods, nutritious foods, in balance and stuff like that, and you're getting enough sleep, the more, provided you're putting enough fuel in the tank, your body will keep on going. You'll be able to keep on doing stuff. This is why people can go out and run 100-mile races. This is why people can do, move millions of pounds of weight, depending on your body size. When you're doing a bodybuilding workout, you just keep on going and going and going, and people can do hundreds of push-ups and all this kind of stuff, is because of, if you're providing the proper fuel and your body is healthy and conditioned, if you keep on adding that fuel, it'll keep on responding. Now, I didn't want to decondition myself, so the only other alternative, once I had a more sedentary lifestyle, I didn't want to be bouncing off the walls, right? I wouldn't be able to focus mentally on my tasks. I'd sit down for like half an hour and then, I got to get up and I got to move around, because that's what I was used to. So one of the shifts that I made was lowering my carbohydrate intake, right? And also maybe the protein a little bit too. So I was a little bit more almost on a ketogenic sort of diet to make it so that I could spend more of my time on a mental focus aspect of things versus the physical and transitioning it. Now, when you reduce your carbohydrate intake, you tend to also reduce your glycogen stores in the body. So my workouts also became a reflection of that as well. Instead of doing the high volume, multiple sets, high reps, bodybuilding style of training that I was accustomed to, I transitioned to doing a little bit more of a powerlifting style of training, and then some Olympic lifting as well, and then doing some, running or walking outside of that, just to burn off any extra fuel when it would accumulate, to keep myself focused again, right? So again, adapting my my diet to my environment and my workouts to the diet. So even though I could perform more reps, let's say, I wasn't able to perform more reps because I didn't have enough fuel in the tank, and I was actually just using my the workouts to continue stimulating those muscles and everything, but more so to burn off the energy so that I could focus on my task, keep myself healthy, keep my mind alert. Now, while there's more awareness being brought to this topic with sayings like abs are made in the kitchen, not in the gym and stuff, still I find the majority of people tend to approach their workouts with the opposite approach that I just described previously. And that approach was that you make your diet match your environment. Your training should match the environment to make it so that you are the most effective in that environment that you're in. And like I said at the beginning of the video, everybody has the time to be able to do some sort of fitness stuff to keep themselves, physically fit, right? You should be able to at least do the 2 to 2.5 hours of combined cardio per week, and that's like zone 2 cardio, right? So it doesn't mean you have to be running the entire time. It depends on your physical level of fitness, but over the course of the week, that's about 20 minutes a day of some form of aerobic exercise, right? And then you should be able to do at least 2 days a week of strength training, and you can break that up again into 10 to 20 minute sessions every day, do some calisthenics type stuff. Everybody has the time to do that kind of thing if you utilize your time appropriately. And if you go out down through the course of your day and just keep a track, a log of how am I spending every minute of my day, you will find that there's a lot of time available that you're not utilizing fully, okay? So I want to preface it with that, right? But with that being said, is that many people, they will have the opposite approach. Instead of catering your diet and their training to the environment that they're in to make them the most effective, they will cater their training and their diet, cater their training and their environment to what they're eating, i.e. meaning that they will be exercising to burn off more calories, or they'll be doing these big long marathon training sessions and other things like that to expend more energy because they don't have a handle on what they're eating, and so they're still eating like they are a high school or college athlete, or like they're training for a marathon, or like they're trying to be the fittest in the world at the CrossFit Games, but they don't have that environment. They don't have the time to train for several hours a day, and yet they're still eating like they're training several hours per day. Now, in their defense, I would not say that the average person is intentionally eating more food, eating more calories, and stuff. It's more that they don't have an understanding of their biology, how the macronutrients and micronutrients affect your appetite, energy, and cravings. And so they are a slave to their diet because they don't understand how to eat less, how to manage their energy levels so that they don't have to do this marathon training and things like that, and they can still maintain a healthy and fit body with a minimal amount of exercise. Okay, you're not going to have an elite level of fitness. You're not going to be Mr. Olympia. You're not going to be an Olympic athlete, and you're not going to be the winner of the CrossFit Games, right? Doing this. But you will have the ability to maintain a healthy body and a decent level of fitness if you know how. And this is something that I have created in my Fat Loss Guide, which is a free ebook that I give out. I don't currently have a link for it on my channel, but if you go into the About section on my channel and message me at my email address, which is aceproaaron@gmail.com. Again, that's ACEPROAARON @gmail.com, I will send you the link for this free ebook, which also comes along with the questionnaire to help you dial in your diet for your specific circumstances, for your specific biology, so that you can get away from being a slave to your diet and having to do all this extra, sometimes often unnecessary work, like doing hundreds of sit-ups like I did in the past, right? Or doing tons of burpees or a 5-minute plank or something like that, which isn't actually improving your performance and is oftentimes excessive. It might be making your endurance better, but is it going to build more muscle? Is it going to increase your vertical jump? Is it going to make you sprint faster? And oftentimes it's detracting from those goals because you're so focused on trying to burn off excess calories. So if you learn how to adjust your diet based upon whether you're eating what are the signs and symptoms if I'm getting too much protein or too much fat? What are the signs and symptoms if I'm getting too much carbohydrates and sugars or too much caffeine or something like that? What if I'm getting too low? What are the short-term ramifications? What are the long-term ramifications? All these things I talk about in my Fat Loss Guide book. And if you're interested in that, again, reach out to me at my email address, aceproaaron@gmail.com. I will send you that free guide along with the questionnaire to help you dial that in. So, back to the video. So in essence, what functional aesthetics means to me is the ability to adjust your diet and your training so that you can maintain your health and your fitness regardless of the environment that you find yourself in. Sometimes you might be doing a massive amount of labor or physical exertion, right? Other times you may be doing much less. You need to have a plan so that you can adjust your training to be able to accommodate for either of those two extremes and still maintain your health. Like I said, you're not going to be the elite in the fitness world necessarily doing this. On the one aspect, maybe you're trying to be a power lifter, but you have a job where you're doing tons of manual labor, right? And you don't have time for a lot of breaks. So maybe you're not able to get the calories that you need because you're expending a lot of energy on the job. And then you go to the gym and you're trying to do the lifting. Maybe you're getting stronger, but you can't build the mass just because you don't have enough calories coming in, right? And on the other end of that, maybe you have to figure out how can I control my appetite and my cravings and stuff like that so that I'm not having to eat like I would be in that, manual labor job, or if I'm training for Mr. Olympia, or if I'm, trying to run an ultra marathon. How can I moderate my energy intake and still maintain a healthy level of body fat percentage? And then how can I adjust my training so that I can have full spectrum fitness across the aesthetics end of across the strength end of things, and also have decent level of aerobic fitness and flexibility or mobility. So I believe many people getting into fitness, and oftentimes many young guys, and myself, watching guys like Sylvester Stallone and Arnold Schwarzenegger and these, even like Bruce Lee and stuff as a kid, and I get inspired, and I wanted to have that level of fitness, and I want to do those kind of things, right? And that was the ideal, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. I like, Spartan warrior races, doing marathon running or running the trails and stuff like that. CrossFit appeals to me, gymnastics, martial arts, bodybuilding, all these things I find to be, inspiring and something that if you have the time and resources to do, something to definitely pursue and attain to, right? But a lot of us are not going to, for many of us, doing that unless you're the best of the best, you can't make a living doing it. And so we have to have other jobs and we have other lifestyles, right? And so how do you adjust for that? And so in closing, the idea is to make the most of the resources that you have. Don't get discouraged because you can't achieve the elite level, right? That you see so many of these fitness influencers have. You see fitness models, you see, the people on, Instagram and even on YouTube and stuff doing these super impressive hardcore workouts, or you see David Goggins, doing all the stuff that he's doing and stuff like that. And you think, well, I need to be doing that too. Otherwise it's just not worth it. And I'm unworthy. I'm somehow not measuring up. But you got to look at what is the, environment that I have. How can I make the best use of the resources that I have, of the time that I have, and become the best version of myself within the confines of the space that I have. And you'll probably find that when you start doing that, your circle of influence and the resources and time available that you have to become better will actually expand over time. Because as you start making better use of the time that you do have, versus instead of worrying about all the things that you don't have and the time that you don't have, you will actually find that you actually do have quite a bit of time available. And as you become more fit and as you become more disciplined and at laying out your day and your life and stuff like that, you will find that your amount of free time begins to expand, and maybe you will be able to start up maybe a side business or something as well, and you can make a little extra money doing there. Maybe you don't have to spend as much time working in your job, and then over time maybe you get it so you can get by and just work 30 hours a week and still maintain a good standard of living, and then spend extra time on your fitness pursuits. So there's a lot of different variety and of avenues you can go down with that. And so I just want to say is that, don't let perfect be the enemy of good, right? Don't have, let perfection lead to paralysis. Start where you're at. Start out with some basics. Figure out what do I have the time to do, and then consistently do that. And over time, you will notice that, oh, okay, I accomplished that. Now I can do something bigger. Now I can do something better. But don't think that, you have to be at that level or you're not worthy. So guys, hopefully you enjoyed this video, and if you did, hit that like button. If you'd like to see more content related to bodybuilding, workout design, athletic performance, nutrition for both building muscle, cutting body fat, and also to help you train around injuries you might sustain on your fitness journey, or designing your workouts to prevent those injuries from happening in the first place, consider subscribing to the channel by hitting the button in the lower right-hand corner of the screen. And we'll see you all next time for more health and fitness related information. Thanks guys for watching.